Welcome to Data Science Pursuit. Today we'll be answering the question, what is data science? Have you ever heard the quote, knowledge is power? Well, good quality data is one of the most precious resources because you can learn a lot from it through analysis. This is where data science comes in. Data science is a field that focuses on analyzing and drawing valuable insights from data to solve different problems. Now, data scientists are those who work in the data science field, and they can recognize patterns and make predictions based on past data to inform data-driven decisions. Let's look at the core skills data scientists need. Is domain knowledge, math, particularly statistics and probability, computer science, particularly programming and machine learning, and communication skills. There are other skills that would be helpful to data scientists, but these are the main ones. Let's expand on these core skills, starting with domain knowledge. It's good to have some knowledge of the specific subject, field, or business area the data scientist is working on. This is gained through education or experience, and when you're gaining this from experience, it's good to be curious and ask the right questions. Domain knowledge helps data scientists, first and foremost, understand the problems they're trying to solve, and this helps them know where to start. And it also helps them avoid answering the wrong question, which is a waste of their time and other people's time as well. And when it's all said and done, it helps them make sense of the findings from their analysis. Next is math. Let's start with statistics. Statistics is a branch of math focused on effective ways to collect, analyze, and present data. It is all about data, so statistics is quite valuable to data scientists. Let's also look at probability. Probability tells us how likely it is that something will happen. It is very important when making predictions because a higher probability will give data scientists and other people more confidence in the results. Next, let's look at computer science, starting with programming. So there are vast amounts of data available to us through the internet, surveys, customer data that companies collect, you name it. So programming is necessary to analyze this data at scale. So we will cover what programming is in detail in a future video. For now, we just give you this quick definition. Programming is the act of giving commands or instructions to a computer for it to complete a task for you or solve a problem. Computers can process all of this data much, much faster than people can. Next, under computer science, we'll look at machine learning. Machine learning models allow us to use data to train or teach computers to identify insights or patterns. Once the machine learning models are trained, they can be used to make predictions. So what data scientists do is that they prepare and provide good quality data for the machine learning models. You can liken this to how teachers give the best information to their students to help them succeed. Although we have put this under computer science, statistics and probability also contributed to this great innovation. We will learn more about machine learning in future videos. Last but not least, we have communication skills. Generally, data scientists need to share their findings with different kinds of people, be it technical or non-technical people. So they must be able to communicate their findings in a way that anyone can understand. Otherwise, no one may be able to use those findings to make any decisions. All that work would just go to waste. Data scientists can work in a variety of industries. Here are a few examples of data science projects. Spam filters. These automatically filter out unwanted emails. Then we have fraud detection. For example, in financial institutions where data scientists can flag stolen credit cards or false insurance claims. And we also have content recommendation. For example, with Netflix or YouTube, they may be able to recommend shows that they think you would like. And then we have retention analysis, which helps companies understand why they may be losing or keeping, for example, their customers or their employees. Then we have car insurance claim prediction. Because insurance is such a risky industry, insurance companies need to anticipate how much they will have to pay out in the future to prepare for it. Then we have optical character recognition. So this helps us convert handwritten, scanned, or image files to text. An example is when you take a picture of a receipt and then the information populates on your phone. And last but not least, we have object detection, which is how self-driving cars can identify objects around them, like other cars, stop signs, or pedestrians. All right, let's expand on some of these projects to hopefully demystify them. We will start by discussing how anyone could solve these problems on a small scale through quote unquote simple analysis. This is a good foundation for a data scientist to have and something to always remember. You'll find that how we solve some day to day problems could be similar to how data scientists do. Secondly, we will emphasize why data scientists may need more tools and skills and knowledge on top of this base analysis skill. And then lastly, we'll explore the positive impact that these projects had on businesses and on people. Hopefully, by the end of this, it will show you why data science is valuable. Without further ado, let's expand on some of these examples. Let's start with spam filters. So last year, my sister got spam that she didn't know was spam. She clicked the link, put her password in, and got hacked. After getting her account back, I educated her on what to look out for. For those who don't know, this was my 2 cents, and trust me, this will be relevant. First, look for a general salutation like dear friend or dear sir slash madam. They may also use the username part of your email. Also look out for misspellings and grammatical errors. So if the email is coming from an individual, it is likely that they may have some misspellings or grammatical errors. But if it's coming from a big company like I know Microsoft or Amazon or DHL, then you don't really expect to see many or any misspellings or grammatical errors because they likely use a template. Then there's always a creation of a sense of urgency, like do it now, with various scenarios from immigration to low memory left on your email account. And anything to do with money or prize winnings. For example, requests for money from strangers or a notification that you have won the lottery or some item. And then last but not least, any emails identified as spam before. So once spam, likely always spam. So we can figure out all these rules or tells by analyzing the emails. I know analysis can sound intimidating, but it can be as simple as just reading the emails and spotting any differences between spam and not spam. And not spam is generally referred to as ham, by the way. So let's look at an example straight from my inbox. So this is a real spam. All right, gonna get my pen out so we can mark some things here. So this is coming from My Red Casino. Yeah, that's going to be all about money, your account information, payout, verification. All right, yeah, more money, 500 welcome bonus and cash back. If I keep marking the money piece, I think I will run out of space, so we'll just stop marking that one. Congratulations, dear data pursuer. So this is the username part of my email, not my real name. So we'll mark that as a general salutation. Final message. All right. Some creation of a little bit of a sense of urgency there. As part of our celebration, you have been chosen, okay, misspelling, to participate in a exclusive limited time promotion. So a exclusive, I would generally say an exclusive, but some people say a exclusive, so it's kind of like mark it as a maybe. Limited time promotion, sense of urgency, 5,000 payout is ready to be addressed in your name, and we want to be sure it gets to the right place. Click below to start the confirmation process. The sooner you act, the sooner it can be in your hands. That's a creation of a sense of urgency too. It's not negative, but they are saying, act soon so you can have this money in your hands sooner. And then $5,000. I believe that's $5,000. So another misspelling over there. All right, so this was in my junk folder, so it has been identified as spam before, so we will mark that here. But if spam filters weren't made yet, then you could talk to other people, find out if they were ever scammed by My Red Casino, and that would count as emails identified as spam before. Right. So how do data scientists approach this problem? Well, they approach the problem in a similar way. They try to spot differences between spam and ham emails so they can flag them. The difference is how they do this. So according to Google, there were over 300 billion emails sent and received daily in 2021. It would take a long time to go through them manually or a lot of people, which is very costly. So programming knowledge is really helpful here. Data scientists can train machine learning models to identify these rules and instantaneously filter emails for the users. Right, so what positive impact do spam filters have? All right, so let's start off by looking at what's been happening in my emails. All right, so I've gotten 152 spam and 60 ham in the past month. Having users filter all those emails by themselves makes for a poor customer experience. The happier the customer, the more they will use emails and the more money email companies will make. All right, next, let's look at content recommendation. If a friend asks you to recommend movies or TV shows, what would you do if you wanted to give them a good recommendation? Well, if you don't already know, you could ask following questions. What genre of shows they like, or shows and movies they've liked in the past. So if you like the same movies and shows that they do, at this point you could likely give them a really good recommendation. But if you don't, you could refer them to someone who likes the same shows that they do. Now, let's say you are a data scientist at Netflix who was tasked with doing this for its many, many customers. This would make it easier for people to find shows they like, so they would keep using Netflix, which means Netflix continues to make a profit. You would look at this problem in a similar way to the small scale example that we have on the screen there. However, you need a process to go through the large amount of data that Netflix has and develop a working recommendation system relatively quickly. Statistics and computer science can help with that. After doing their analysis, data scientists can teach machines to look at what shows and movies Netflix customers have watched and then use the vast amount of data that Netflix has to recommend shows quickly. Lastly, let's look at optical character recognition. But first, let's start with how we learn how to read. We're taught how to read as kids if we're able. We learn by seeing lots of examples, and if there are similarities between letters, we spot the differences and memorize them. In other words, we're looking for patterns, and as we get older, we likely do this subconsciously. So, how does optical character recognition work? Well, the goal is to train computers to recognize words and letters in a similar way to how people do. This requires all the core skills that we talked about, a knowledge of how computers work, and having a good understanding of how people think. So we've covered how people think. Let's look at how computers work with images. Images are made up of tiny squares or dots called pixels. Let's look at an example to the right here. So I've got the letters DSP for Data Science Pursuit. I put this in Microsoft Paint and then zoomed it out a bunch so you can see those pixels. And they're clear on the curved parts of the D and S and P over there. So the colors in these pixels can be converted to something a computer can understand. Computers can then look at the distribution of colors across the pixels and make out what shape is in the image. With this knowledge, we can tell the computer what letter the shape represents to train it to identify these letters in other images. The more examples we give it, the better it gets at converting images to text. Luckily, machine learning models have already been made to direct computers on how to solve this problem. Data scientists will need to prepare and provide good data, in this case, images, for the model. Once the model is trained, computers can essentially read documents. This means a lot of manual processes can be automated, which can save a lot of time. Optical character recognition combined with text to speech technology can enable computers to read labels and books to the visually impaired. All right, we've come to the end of our video, so let's look at some key takeaways. Well, firstly, data scientists extract valuable insights from data to solve various problems, and they do this using a combination of computer science, statistics, and knowledge of the area they're analyzing. Next, we'll look at the data science process. In other words, how data scientists do their work. I'll see you there.